my project is the Deliberative Citizenship Initiative. Its tagline is Building Democracy One Conversation at a Time. And it's based at Davidson College, where I'm a professor of political science. And it involves a whole range of different programs, which I'll introduce kind of in turn. Just as a quick overview, we have a training program, we have a student and faculty fellows program. We host forums and small group discussions called D teams. Our student fellows actually host their own deliberation projects, and then we host a range of other activities. And then towards the end, I'll kind of share what our plans for next year are. And there is an opportunity for people to get involved from other institutions if they're interested. But starting bigger picture, right? So what is the DCI's purpose and goals? So we were founded about 5 years ago with the overarching aim of creating opportunities for Davidson students, faculty, staff, and members of the wider community, both in Davidson as well as beyond, alumni and people in the broader public, to really engage authentically with one another on difficult and contentious issues facing both our kind of local communities as well as our broader society. And we do that by teaching deliberative skills, reinforcing humane instincts, building meaningful community, catalyzing creative solutions, and improving deliberative practices through rigorous research. And so we achieve those goals, in a variety of contexts, in the classroom, on campus, with the community, and in research programs. And within a broader kind of system, a deliberative system, as Martine Carcassonne and others have called it, sort of idea that there's a range of activities and elements in this system. And for us, it really starts with our fellows and our students who are trained in how to facilitate these challenging conversations. And after they go through that training program, then they attend our speaker series and host conversations at our deliberative forums and our small group discussions, again, called D teams. And then we also organize social events and do a lot of outreach to help bring people into these conversations as much as possible, to make them as welcoming and inclusive as possible. And then, as I mentioned, we also do research, and those fellows then go out and do their own projects on topics that are meaningful to them. And they can do this in small groups or on their own, online, in person, in the community, on campus, on really whatever topic they're interested in exploring. Okay, so that's the overview. Now we can kind of dive into some of the specifics. So this is these are some shots from our deliberation facilitator training program last year, which is 2 4-hour sessions separated by a week, 2 weekend afternoons, where not only the fellows, but also members of the public, faculty, staff, other students can learn how to host these kind of and organize and facilitate these kinds of challenging conversations. And it's very interactive, lots of hands-on conversations, lots of mock deliberations. And the first session, they're actually led by some of our senior fellows students, who you can see in this picture, who have gone through the program and they've had this experience, and they share their insights with the group, and they also model good facilitation skills to the participants in the workshop. The fellows then, once they complete that training, they have a year-long experience where they meet together with me weekly to follow up on that training, to prepare for the events they're going to be hosting. We do sort of mock deliberations on the topics that they're going to be facilitating conversations on. So they get to share their viewpoints, their ideas, before then actually facilitating conversations on those issues. Then we also debrief about the events, the programs afterwards, how to go, what went well, what might we improve on. And then we continue doing readings and watching videos relevant to deliberation, deliberative democracy, so that it's a kind of extended training program over the course of the academic year. We have guest speakers come. So here's our Dean of Students, Byron McRae, talking to the group about his perspective on deliberation. We've had Professor of Philosophy Dan Lehman and our President Doug Hicks all come and share their views and insights about the deliberative process with the fellows. They also go through the Collaborative Dialogue Institute's Perspectives, CDI's Perspectives platform, which is a great platform of 6 different lessons on sort of different kind of insights about what makes these kind of conversations hard and then how to overcome those challenges. And then also, and that's more psychology based. And then in the second semester, we focus more on kind of philosophical kind of perspectives on how to have good arguments. And one way to do that is by avoiding bad arguments and fallacies, for example, ad hominem attacks that we all are sort of, kind of prone to make. So the fellows learn about how they themselves can avoid, making those fallacies, and then encouraging members of their groups to do the same. And so we try to, it's very interdisciplinary, cross-cutting. We bring perspectives in from a wide range of disciplines into our conversations. We also focus not just on skills and moves to make, right, as facilitators, which is very important, things to say in particular contexts, but also kind of more generally about deliberative dispositions that they can adapt, they can model, they can encourage their participants to also adapt, to lean into. Starting with a kind of commitment to egalitarianism and the idea that everybody has a right to be in the room and a right to express and share their viewpoints in the room, no more or no less than anyone else. And that's connected to a kind of sense of humility and curiosity, open-mindedness towards, ideas that they're not familiar with or maybe even disagree with, empathy and kindness, charity and grace towards everyone who's in the conversation, an emphasis on evidence and reasoning, an orientation to the community, and a kind of attentiveness, to each other. And then finally, a kind of inclination towards action, that conversation is critical, foundational to healthy communities and democracies, but it's not sufficient. We also need to take steps, take actions following our conversations. So that's kind of the fellows program for students. We also have a fellows program for faculty members called the Deliberative Pedagogy or DEEP Collaborative. And this is a year-long program, starting with a summer workshop of 2 days where faculty come from not only Davidson, but institutions from all over the country to learn about deliberative pedagogy and how to embed more deliberation into their courses. And these faculty come from a wide range of institutions, large universities, small liberal arts colleges, historically Black colleges, universities, community colleges, but everyone's united by an interest in this topic of how do we engage and help our students engage more authentically, more constructively with really challenging topics in their classrooms. And these are physics professors, political science professors, dance professors, biology professors, gender and sexuality studies professors, the full range we've had participate, and they've all, sort of really engaged well with each other. That's sort of interdisciplinary connections and learning, because we continue over the course of the year, continue to have cohort meetings and partner meetings where they share their challenges, their questions, their successes in both designing the course and then actually teaching it, usually in the spring semester. And so it's a really kind of community feel and collaborative effort that we've been doing for the last 3-4 years with this collaborative. I mentioned we host deliberative forums. This is a shot from our forum on income and wealth disparities last fall, where what we have at these forums is a panel or round table of experts that have very different backgrounds and perspectives on the issue at hand, and a moderator who moderates a conversation, and they're all there sort of to model respectful dialogue across differences. And it's this one was particularly good. We had the president of the college, Doug Higgs, be our moderator. He has actually, these are two different. No, it's the same. Yeah, so he has a background in both economics and religion, and has written books on sort of income and wealth disparities. And then we had a professor at Davidson in philosophy and a professor uh, uh, from Richmond, also in philosophy, but they had very different perspectives on this question. And then a policy analyst from North Carolina and an NGO leader from here in Charlotte, all of whom kind of brought their sort of arguments to the table. And it was a really dynamic and engaging conversation. Here's another one, religion in public life. We had in the winter, what role should religion play in the public square and government policies? And then our most recent one was on free expression at Davidson, rights and responsibilities during an uncertain time. And usually, we have either those roundtables that I showed. This time we actually had free expression about free expression. So each speaker had 5 or 6 minutes to kind of share their viewpoints on the issues at hand. And then, but for all of our forums, we've had roundtable discussions among the participants, among the audience, after the experts get to talk. So the first hour is the experts, sharing their views. And then the second hour is the audience, both online and in person, talking about the questions that were raised by the roundtable conversations and other questions that may have been raised in the deliberation guides that we write for all of our events that participants had on their own. And it's all led by our facilitators who are trained through that training program I mentioned earlier. So that's the deliberative forums. We also have what we call these D teams, which are small group discussions about also challenging topics. But these don't just meet once, they meet 3 times in a semester, led by our facilitators. And so they get to know each other better. They get to, sort of share their perspectives over the course of the semester on related but distinct topics. And it's designed to kind of create a sense of community, a sense of trust, where you can actually be more authentic and true to yourself and share what you really think about the topics at hand. What topics do we explore? So the full range. So last fall, campus protests, defense of democracy, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then the spring, a public health set of topics, the opioid epidemic, lessons learned from COVID-19, and the American healthcare reform of the American healthcare system. So not easy topics, but ones that people were, and I think will continue to be very interested in talking about because they're important both locally and nationally and even internationally. So likewise, so the students, our fellows in the spring, they actually host their own deliberation projects. So they learn these skills in the fall, then they start designing a project that is of interest to them. And in the spring, they implement that project. And so here's one example. So a couple of students really wanted to do something on transportation. We actually connected them with the town of Davidson, which had been hosting and wanted to host a session on campus about a new commuter rail station and rail line that was going to be built from Charlotte up to Davidson. And they got together, they designed the whole thing, the flyer, the dates, worked with the town, who came and gave a presentation out, and then they had a deliberation about that topic. So that's one example. Here's another one, lessons of war, prospects for peace. What should we say about the legacies of World War II in the Asia Pacific region? So this actually was something that the college came to us and said, we'd really like you to help host a conversation on, because we have planted some ginkgo trees on campus that were gifts from an organization in Japan commemorating the atomic blast and the survivors of that blast in Hiroshima. And this seems like a pretty straightforward thing, but it was actually a little bit controversial because students and alumni from different countries in Asia, China, Korea, Vietnam, felt like the ginkgo trees, which were survivors, were descendants of survivors of the Hiroshima blast, didn't feel like it captured the full range of the impacts of World War II on the region, including the impacts of the Japanese Imperial Army in their countries, where multiple war crimes were committed. And so, how do we engage with this? How do we sort of talk about these trees, these issues? Uh, was our sort of task, and we organized a forum, and our fellows were very intimately involved in designing the forum, inviting speakers, and facilitating conversations about this important topic. So, and what was cool about it is it had an actual outcome. So we, came up with some text for signage that would go with that, with those trees, and we're about to submit the sort of final draft text back to the college for their consideration in next steps on this set of issues. So that's one. And then here's another one. So some students organized a training program for our CHIDSI leadership fellows. These DCI fellows were also CHIDSI fellows. So they wanted to sort of introduce deliberative leadership to their classmates. And by all accounts, it was a really useful workshop. They focused on climate change as a topic, and they used kind of deliberative facilitation methods through that process. I think this is my last of these deliberation projects. We had many. This is just one more example. A student organized a session on the power of historical narratives and contested histories. This was like a full forum, 5 history professors talking about this topic from their regional and historical expertise. And we had 30 students come and hear their perspectives, hear their insights, and then talk again among themselves about the questions they raised. And this would be hard for any history major, but our student, our fellow TBC, is a biology major, but he was undaunted and did it because he was fascinated. He wanted to do this topic, and it turned out really great. We also do other activities. We host kickoff parties every semester, introduce the DCI to students. It's more like low stakes, fun, fun activities, prizes, music, food, freshman democracy challenge, playing with Legos and thinking about democracy at the same time was a blast. We've done workshops for outside groups, a group of European female leaders who were hosted by the State Department came to learn about our deliberative process at Davidson. The students also, kind of have what we call DCI outposts all over campus, where they are present in the community. They can answer questions. They can sort of advertise about upcoming events. And then they also can just do their DCI work while they're at their outpost. So, and that's a way for them to be kind of available in the community. We also do local topics, that are highly relevant to the campus community. So we did one on the Honor Code in collaboration with the Honor Council and the student government this spring. And this is, again, these are driven by students. So those students organized this. I was there to help, facilitate and support. But they were the ones really driving the event. We also had a big event in the fall, our College Dems, College Republicans debate. Hundreds of people came out for this right before the election. What we added as the DCI were tables between the two debating parties. And after each round of debates, we'd have a little interregnum where people could deliberate about the topics they just heard debated. And it was a way to really encourage more engagement, not just like spectating, but also actually engaging with the top topics that were raised during the debate. We also had a discussion after the election, the day after, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Wasn't sure anybody would show up, but we had a great group of students from across the political spectrum come and talk with each other about their reactions. And it's a little bit emotional, challenging, but a really great opportunity for them to be in the same room together and share their thoughts and feelings. Here's our spring kickoff party. We combined it with ping pong. The ping pong club came out and we played ping pong and deliberated at the same time over pizza. So it was a fun way to start off the spring semester. Here's our our senior fellows who are our planning team for that Religion in the Public Square event. And then here's some shots from our fall D teams, and then also our spring D teams. So you can see they're community members, there's students, there's staff, the kind of full range. And these are just the in-person ones. We also have ones online as well. And then it's not all serious. Also, there's some fun involved too. This is at an All In for Davidson event, and Luna's one of our fellows, and I had been volunteered to get smashed in the face with pies, and she was gracious enough to share some pie with me. So that was kind of fun. And then plans for next year. So our fellows applications are open. Already had a great number apply, and looking forward to our next year of programs, which will include those senior fellows and first year fellows. We're going to not be doing the year-long kind of deliberative pedagogy collaborative, but going to be doing a series of workshops and panels to open it up more to people who maybe can't do a full year, but maybe could do a series of modular events. So you can stay tuned for that. And then more projects from the students. And we're hiring a new program coordinator, hopefully starting later this month. And then the big thing that I can share, briefly is we're organizing a deliberative series on American values. And this is, in anticipation of celebrating America's 250th birthday next year, 2026, and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we'll have expert roundtables and community conversations around a set of themes in collaboration, most likely with Duke University and UNC Chapel Hill. So we'll host some forums, they'll host some forums, and then all of us will be hosting conversations on our campuses and in our communities. And so if there's an event, say at Duke, we'll host like a watch party here with food, and we can watch it on the big screen, and then have follow-up conversations in the days following. And we'll have 4 themes across those 2 semesters. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of connect our forums and our T teams together, so they'll be on the same topic. So people who are in D teams, they'll be encouraged to go to the forum and learn about the topic from those experts. They'll be even more well equipped to engage with their D team fellow participants. And then people who come to forums will encourage them to join a D team so that they'll be able to engage more deeply as well. And then we'll open this up to anybody. So you guys could all participate. Your programs out of Berkeley, you guys could sign up and join. And then you could watch the forums and then organize your own conversations on your campuses. And we'll run some workshops and webinars on how you might do that, especially for institutions who haven't done this before. Small schools, community colleges, it's really open to anybody. What are the topics? So this is our current version is to kind of focus on these 4 themes. And the idea is for each forum to take 2, kind of values that are embedded in the Declaration, in the Constitution, and talk about how they connect, how they're in tension, and then how they reflect and come up in current policy controversies. So the first one likely is going to be on unity, like more perfect union, and equality, all men are created equal. And how do those values, kind of come out in discussions around voting rights and racial and gender equality policies and immigration, and really kind of connect values and policies directly. And you can see the other one: self-government and national stability, liberty and general welfare, justice, and the rule of law. So I'm super excited about this program. It's new, it's innovative, it's something we haven't done before. And I think it'll really be a kind of great way to bring the public in and give citizens a chance to kind of talk about the upcoming anniversary in a substantive and engaged and authentic way. Okay, so I'm almost done, and then I open up for questions. This is just a kind of picture of the DCI structure of what we just talked through. And then this is kind of a picture of our collaborative ecosystem. So none of this would be possible without all the partnerships we've had, on campus with different offices, with student organizations, with community organizations, with funding from the Duke Endowment, from the Arthur Bynum Davis Foundations, from alumni. And it really takes, this ecosystem for all this to be possible. So, and then finally, some tensions and dialectics to think about. So one is that psychology and philosophy kind of dynamic. We've recognized that, some people come at this more from a psychology perspective, some more from a philosophical one, and we've tried to kind of connect the two as much as we can. A dispositions insight. So this work really requires, both courage and humility. And that is hard often to do both at the same time, but it's really essential. And so we really try to talk about that and think about that in practical ways. The third is kind of an impact insight and the sort of, short-term pain versus long-term gain kind of dynamic, right? That, some of this is hard, right? It's difficult, both in a kind of logistical sense, like building all these things, doing all this work from an administrator's perspective, but also from a participant, like engaging with any of these topics can be uncomfortable and challenging, but it really has, a long-term benefit. And it's like, a common cliche kind of analogy is going to the gym, right? It can hurt, right? It can really hurt to go to the gym, and it hurts afterwards for a little while. But over time, you get stronger, and you become more capable and able to do some amazing things and to engage with really challenging but critical topics. So the fourth is a scaling insight. So ultimately, a lot of what we do needs to be pretty structured, right? Because these are sensitive topics. You need to have facilitators, you need to have deliberation guide, you need a plan, especially if you want to have that long-term impact on policy, for example. But in order to get there, you kind of need to do some informal things too. You need to do some fun things, bring people into the conversation, into the process. And so trying to do both, right? The sort of the structured and unstructured, the 5-minute conversation and the 2-hour conversation is important. And these are all kind of balancing acts. And sometimes you go one way and sometimes the other way. But in the big picture, the holistic picture, it's important to try to do, kind of strike that balance, to walk that tightrope.